Hi guys, today I'll be recording an updated video on how to dip with tips. I'll be using iGel Beauty straight tips, KDS glue, a buffing block, and clear dip. The first step to applying tips is to select the proper size for each nail. You don't want to wait till you have like 3 tips on and trying to struggle to get the 4th and 5th. So I always select my sizes first before doing any gluing or any other kind of prepping. I started from my thumb moving all the way in towards my pinky and lining up the tips as I go so they're faster to glue on. I use a generous amount of glue just to make sure it adheres to my nail properly. I press down firmly and don't move it until I feel like it's somewhat dry. And I just press down along all the edges and make sure there are no gaps in the nail. Sometimes I go ahead and apply more glue along the edge of the tip just to make sure everything's glued down properly. These tips from iGel have been a dream to work with. They're flexible, they're pre-shaped, so I don't have to do much filing to get my coffin shape. And I don't know, I just haven't had an issue with them yet. This is my second set using them. When I'm clipping the nails, I go a little longer than my desired length just because I could always keep filing down. But when you cut too short, which is what happened to me in my last set, you can't make them longer. You have to wait for your nails to grow. So always go longer and then file down later. At this point, I like to do a little filing and straightening the top of the nail and making sure the edges are nice and straight. It just saves me time later on once the dip is on. It's a lot less effort doing it before. Before dipping, I also rough up the tip a little bit by buffing it. This helps the dip adhere better to the tip, so it's not just a smooth surface, and it also helps it blend into your natural nail. At this point, if you use any dip balm or nail dehydrator, now's the time to apply it. If not, alcohol works just as great. I use a glass cuticle pusher and push my cuticles back as much as I can. This just helps me get a clean cuticle line area by the time I'm done dipping. The first dip I do is an easy one. It's just on the line where the nail and tip meet. I try to get rid of that harsh bump. I know I say this almost every video, but the finger rest from the nail prop shop is a lifesaver. It stabilizes your fingers so well, which helps the application process be more accurate. Anyways, when going in for the second dip, I try to go from a little lower where the first dip was all the way to the tip of the nail. So as you can see here, I'm just applying it a little lower from the last dip all the way to the tip of the nail. To help preserve the quality of your dip base, I do suggest using a brush in between dips to make sure you have no loose powders on your nail when applying dip base. Same thing for the third dip, I just go a little lower than the last dip all the way to the tip. This does help you build somewhat of an apex, but it also helps it not be so bulky around the cuticle line. For my fourth and final dip, I'm gonna get as close as I can to that cuticle line, all the way up to my tip, working slowly, making sure I don't have a lot of product on my brush because I don't want to flood my cuticle line. I don't want it to look too bulky, and I don't want to have a lot of cleaning up to do afterwards. So this dip, I work slowly and I just do the full nail. Then I dip. And because this is the last dip and it is so close to the cuticle line, I go ahead and I clean with a little toothpick afterwards. And since it is my final dip, I activate right away so that the nail could dry as I work on my other nails. Okay, so that's it for the dipping. We're all done with that. The next thing I do is use a 180 grit nail file and just correct my shape because dipping does add bulk to the nail. So you'll have to correct your shape. Not much because since the tips were pre-shaped and we did do a bit of filing before, we won't have much filing to do now. I do use an e-file and I'm using a fine drill bit, and this just helps smooth my nail out because sometimes it is bumpy. So I just go ahead with my e-file using that fine drill bit, and once I'm done I just run my finger along the top of my nail, make sure it's smooth. If it's not, I keep filing. If you don't have an e-file, that's totally okay. You're gonna use a rougher buffing block and just buff instead of using the e-file. It'll just take a little longer, but you'll still get the same end results. Just to make sure there are no rough lines on my nails from the e-file, I do go in with a finer buffing block and buff out the nails some more. Not much, just a little bit. I urge you to inspect your nails one more time before you go forward with your color dip. Anything you're not happy with, I suggest you correct now. So go in with your nail file, correct your shape. You won't have another chance because once you start using your peel base and you dip into your color and you try to file afterwards, because you do have peel base under, it might cause your nail to pop off. So now is the chance to go ahead and correct your shape. Even if you're not using peel base, just go ahead, correct your shape now. It's less effort later once you have the color on, because once you add color dip, they're just bulkier. So once I'm done with that, I just spray my nails with some alcohol and wipe them down with a paper towel. And I'm done. Now I just proceed with my peel base and I start dipping. So that's it. We're all done. Thank you.